Okay, does everybody have the handout number 3? Did it go around? Did you get handout number 3?
It's coming.
It's coming around. There we go.
Last week you gave out some sichas, but we never got to it.
Yeah, we didn't do the sicha inside. I might reference to it today, or we'll have a perhaps another class on the actual inside. Because let me recap of what we need to know for today. So in case you weren't there last time, it will not impact. Yeah, so there's of the handout. So there is a copy of the handout, and if not, I can email it to you. I'll email it to you afterwards, okay? Okay, so we discussed last week, we touched upon the difference between the Emunah of a Yid and what it means in general when we use the word belief. A Goy believes in God. Goyim believe in the Eibishter. It's not something exclusive to Yidden in the sense of the word belief. Goyim use the word, in God we trust, in God we believe. It's a word that's used by Goyim. But Emunah is not belief. And the example that we illustrated to bring out the uniqueness of Emunah, the example we gave was from a creative student and a mathematical student, where if you wish, you can use the word, an entrepreneur, they use the word bug. They have a bug, right? It's an expression used in English when a person starts a new idea, and what compels the person to suddenly decide to embark on this huge venture? I had a bug in me and I just decided to do it, right? So it's not just what you do, it's not a decision, it's in the kishkis. It's in the kishkis. Epis in the kishkis, something shook over there and I decided to do it. And it's really a genetic. It's certain people see things. There's something with creativity that's beyond what you do. Okay, without making into creativity, I get you. But creativity is not just a behavior pattern. I brought it out that creativity is more of identity would be the word to use. Another way to describe the difference would be if you ask someone, how would you define a person? So a person would start off saying, listen, I do. What do you do? People ask you, what do you do? I do ABC. Okay, but that doesn't mean you are what you do. I can do many things, but I can really be something else. I can decide to do many things. That doesn't describe me. I can do. Doing doesn't mean. So they ask you, what do you enjoy? No, I want to know what you enjoy. If I know what you enjoy, then I'm going to get to know who you are. But that's also not a real answer. I can enjoy something, but yet that's not really me. What does that mean? So the example we gave was in Hebrew, there's an expression, tov v'tov shehaya. It was good, but it was good that it was. In English, we say it's a good experience. I have my pictures, I have my video, I have my memories. Oh, I don't have to go back again. I went to Amish town, it was great. It was beautiful. But I don't belong there. I don't want to live there. Not everything I enjoy doesn't mean that I belong to that enjoyment. Certain things I say, oh, that's my kind of thing. Certain things I enjoy as a consequence of who I am. I can enjoy the grass on the other side is also green. It's greener. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's great. But where am I in the sense of, is it a flow from me, or is it something that I do? So Emunah, really what it means is that a Yid doesn't believe in Hashem as in a behavior. A behavior means I do something, I decide something. By a Yid, it's a genetic condition. Hashem, we brought it out in the Mountain Torah, Yidden were very excited. Why do you have to force the Yidden to accept the Torah? So really it's explained that the idea is he didn't force a behavior. He forced upon you an identity. He took someone who was a math kid and he put a bug inside of him. And now suddenly the kid he looks at things differently. He looks at the whole world differently. As a matter of fact, he's sitting in the math classroom and everybody tells him, you're different. You don't belong here. And that's exactly what happened to the Yidden. The Eibishter took a nation And he made them different. And everybody says, you're different. You don't belong here. Who are you? And we try to fit in. No, I'm going to fit in. No, really, I do belong here. I'm telling you I belong here. And they tell you, no, you're different. You don't belong here. And that is an identity. Okay, so in English you can call it subconsciousness versus consciousness. There are certain things that are very deep inside of us, although they don't affect the behavior. In other words, I can be in a math classroom, and I'm a creative kid. And I can really try to do things that fit, but I don't belong, because I'm something else. So it's the subconsciousness is what we talked about in the previous class, and that's really the definition of Emunah. Emunah means a yid is different bimuhusoi, not bimintziusoi. Bimuhusoi means in his identity, in his genetic makeup, a yid will have a condition that will simply make his life different. And today I want to bring out how that plays out in life. It's very nice to say your genetic makeup is different. Prove me. Show me how I have a different life. Show me how I have different wants and different desires, and how I'm attracted to different things. If I'm a creative kid, that should spill over in my conscious mode. I should somehow find symptoms of that kind of subconsciousness in my consciousness, and that's exactly what a creative kid is. Creative kid is sitting in the math class and a chalamt. Because why? Because that's part of who he is. So show me how a yid has that also, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is what causes us to either numb or awaken the subconscious identity of Emunah. Where do we find it? In Chassidus, the terminology is etzem and giluyim. Etzem means my subconsciousness. Etzem means my identity. Etzem would be who I am internally. And giluyim is what I feel. If you claim I am something, I should be feeling what I am somewhere. I don't have to feel it all the time. But it has to spill over. Otherwise, you're selling me the Brooklyn Bridge. So there's got to be somehow, I see in my conscious mode, certain symptoms that awaken and say, hey, what is this? This is coming from somewhere else. What are those symptoms? And how do I strengthen them? That's the question we're going to be dealing with today. So again, last time we talked about the definition of Emunah. If you want to put it in simple English, you can use the word subconsciousness. Emunah is it's deeper than subconsciousness. It's Emunah is identity. I call it identity versus behavior. Call it decision making versus impulsive. You're drawn to something naturally versus making a decision. Naturally is something that's me. A decision, I can make a decision to do many things. I can make a decision to go visit people and enjoy them for a certain, and it's not necessarily me, because I decided to go on vacation to a certain place. It's not me. Decisions, we can make many decisions in life, but you can't change an identity in the sense of who you are. One of the hardest things is for us to come in touch with who we are, because a lot of problems happen when we're not in touch with who we are and we try to be something else, and then frustration happens. And that's really a lot of the frustration that we experience as Yidden. After Matan Torah, Yidden kvetched for 40 years, and they continue kvetching till today. Why? Because of that frustration. The Eibishter put this new bug inside of us, and we can't really match our insides with our outsides, and that's where all the kvetching starts. But let's talk about today how we see a symptom of this Jewish condition. It's very strong words used in Chassidus. The words in Chassidus used for the Yiddish, the words in Chassidus used to describe Emunah is that a Yid is a boire. That a Yid is like a boire. A Yid is like a boire, which means to say, a Yid is Eibishter. Hashem embedded in us a bug, something else that changed us. What did He embed in us? He made us family. Family gets things that others don't. This has to be explained. This is a very subtle topic. It also can border on racism, but it's not. And let's touch upon it today in the sense of understanding what do these words, we've come across them many times. We've come across all of these words in Tanya and all over. And we highlight them and the flagship. What do they really mean? How does it play out? So the first thing where we can see this, and I touched upon this last week, is it's a modnazach. It's a weird thing. You go over to a non-Jew and you ask a non-Jew, you believe in the Eibishter? Yeah, I believe in God. What do you do for that? What does Hashem want? Ask take any goy off the street. Schwarzes are maminim. Schwarzes are very big maminim. It's a contradiction. They're maminim, but they're also they say they believe. He asks us, what does Hashem believe? What does Hashem want from you? He wants justice, peace, kindness. He wants people to be good people. Take a freie Yid, and I mentioned this, 90% of Yidden want a bris milah for their children. Why bris? I had many conversations on this. Why bris? Why do they want a bris? If you want to tell me because they want to feel a connection because they were brought up in a home, so pick Shabbos candles. Shabbos candles is spiritual. It's like, it's spiritual. Songs, it's Friday night, it's a dinner, it's candlelight. I mean, even in the Goyish world, candlelight is a spiritual thing. If you do it on a mountain, it's mamish spiritual. Mountain top with candles, you're almost gonna, the top Sunday it's a very spiritual experience. So why are they picking bris milah? Tell me one guy who's going to tell you that a bloody mitzvah, bris milah, is going to be spiritual. Well, there's nothing spiritual about it. But yeah, you take any Yid, mitamo, they're drawn to it. Mitzvahs of Kaddish, Yidden have a stronger bond to. The word Kaddish means separation. The word bond means connection. Bris is a bond, it's a connection. Certain mitzvahs, it doesn't make sense. However you slice the cake, it doesn't make sense. So these are symptoms in the that a Yid has something in him naturally pulling him towards things that don't make sense. And as much as I'm trying to let go, I don't have it. This is one area. Let me highlight another area. You know where you find it? I just read a nice story. And you find this, although I used to do it in Mephilim all the time. I read a story from someone else that it actually worked, but we did it all the time. Someone walks by and says, you want to put on film? Well, say today, tomorrow, yesterday, I'm not Jewish, I'm almost Jewish, I was Jewish. Yeah, all these different kinds of comments. Sometimes when you really want to kitzel someone, so we used to turn around to the person and say, the person said, I don't want to put on film. So he used to turn around and say, oh, you mean you're not Jewish? The person said, you mean, I'm not Jewish? My Zayda and my Baba, and you're telling me I'm not, who do you think you are? And he became the best Jew in the world. The story that I read was a person who they asked him to put on tefillin, and he said no, and he was so bothered that they asked him. He decided to buy a pair of tefillin. Yaman Klein said over the story, and it was written down in his. And what happened here? We find this begashmius. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. When you want to measure a subconsciousness of a person, sometimes you have to do drastic things, and suddenly you see it. Now, I'll illustrate it with a few stories. I brought out these stories in other times, but I'll illustrate it on this point. And this is called awakening something through attacking it. Sometimes you have to push someone against the wall, and then they have to answer. Until then, they're giving excuses. Until you have to answer, you don't answer. And when you have to answer, you can't be not yourself. When you have to, push comes to shove, when you have to decide, who are you? So where are you? Where are you exactly? Then the Yid says, oh yeah. You're telling me? Who do you think you are? So suddenly, it's begashmius that way. Begashmius when a person pulls away something that's very dear to you, suddenly you feel stronger. You feel your feelings towards what was taken away suddenly surface in a much more intense way. It wasn't there before. No, because you took it now. So what happened? Because now I realize who I am. Now we have a comfort zone. There's a comfort zone in our day-to-day that sometimes doesn't allow us to think of who no one asks why. Everybody asks what. You don't have, until you're forced to ask why, then you ask why. So suddenly the person says, so who are you? What? Tell me what I should eat today. Tell me what I should eat tomorrow. Don't ask me who I am. You're forcing me to ask. When you're forced, suddenly, that's what's called mesiras nefesh. When a person has to ask, who are you? That's a moment when the subconsciousness goes into the consciousness. So that's a moment where we see it in many areas. A few stories that shock you. Ben Gurion, I said the story once. Ben Gurion wasn't known as a Fruma Yid in any sense of the word. And he wasn't a Oyev Fruma Yidin either. And yet he was the one that allowed in Eretz Yisrael that the Fruma should be allowed to learn Torah and not go to the army. The exemption from the Fruma, he was the one that allowed it. And when they asked him, his chavedim asked him, like, this is so against what you stand for. I mean, if you're familiar, he was a very strong Zionist, not only a Zionist, anti-Torah. I mean, for him, living in Eretz Yisrael was instead of putting on tefillin. That was the kind of thinking that he had. So for him, Torah was, he wrote articles against Torah. I mean, that was what he was. That's who he stood for. So why are you allowing this? You know what he said? He said, Ani lo rotze loredet b'historia kemi shemachak et haTorah. I don't want to go down in history as the one who took away the Torah from the nation of Yidden. He started it's such a powerful line. He started a country, and he understood in history, he's starting now a country for the Jewish people. He had to make a lot of decisions. He was very vocal against Torah mitzvahs. He took away a lot of Torah mitzvahs from the nation of the Yidden. But when it came to Torah, he didn't want to be the one that historically, I'm the one, he remembered all the Seinah Yisrael in his mind. That's the job for Stalin. That's the job for, I should do it. But he was that. He did go down in history as the person who machak et haTorah. I mean, that's how he went down in history. But when it comes to decision making, that are certain very strong decision, a person who's the most frayest yid, suddenly a subconsciousness surfaces. Why? Where does it surface from? Moshe Dayan. I'm going to give you a few examples that demonstrate what it means. We say this all the time, pintelayid, right? We use this word all the time. Let's illustrate what this is and how it plays out. A few nice stories that I came across that help paint the picture of what this means. Pintele, what this means, a real identity, and how when it comes to certain times, it's so real that no matter what I did all my life, and no matter what I taught, no matter what kind of friends I have, no matter what kind of years that I engage in a certain behavior, this is going to simply wash away everything and supersede it, and it's not going to allow me to behave the way I championed my life. I mean, he championed his life with Zionism against Torah. But when it came to a moment of truth, he couldn't find himself throwing the Torah away. Moshe Dayan grew up in a home. His father had a sign outside his house, Kan Ochlim Chametz, during Pesach. That was the kind of home he grew up with. Not only that, it's a sign in here we eat chametz. Very strong kibbutznik. They had a big pita outside the house under that sign, Kan Ochlim Chametz. And that's Moshe Dayan, famous general. Moshe Dayan was defense minister during the 6-Day War. It came his turn. The defense minister is the one that decides about the exemption for the Yidden. So he was in a memshala, he was in a government that was left-leaning, and they were going to vote against that exemption. And he was the one that fought that they should continue to go. They asked him, Moshe, what's up with you? You don't come from a home. Why are you so stubborn about keeping this Michigan law? So he said, you don't understand. He says, we have a nice army. We have a good army. America also does. British also do. We have good planes. They also do. There's one thing we have that they don't. And this is what he says. Okay, could you understand? This is Moshe Dayan, Faraya Yid, that had Kan Ochlim Chametz. There's one thing that we have as a nation that they don't. We just can't take it away from our nation. That's a Torah. We can't take that away. We have to continue with that. What are you saying? Another story that I came across that really was a nice story that highlights the Pintel Yid. This is the second. Again, it's illustrating there's something very deep in us that you simply can't let go of it. Also with an Israeli. So there was a kibbutznik that came to a Chabad house in India. After the army, they go and they travel. So he comes in, and again, kibbutznikim are very tough. And he comes in the Chabad house. Mamish, the whole thing makes no sense to me. Don't even start with anything. So the shliach tells him, no problem. Take the Sefer Torah, go into the side room. Do me a favor, rip it up, put it on the floor, rip it up, and dance on it. He's shocked. He turns around to the shliach. He says, "Man, for your honor, I'm not going to offend you in public. I'm not going to do things that are going to hurt your feelings." So she says, no, don't worry. I'm okay. Go ahead. I would take the Bible and dance in it. I have no problem. I could take the Christian Bible, dance in it, pour cholent on it. I have no problem. Soup, whatever you want. Whatever you want me to do with it, I'll do it. I have no problem. Go ahead, go dance. There are moments, Mesiras Nefesh, really what it is it's like taking away the paintbrush from a creative kid. Tell a creative kid, tell someone who's an artist, tell someone who's not doing something for a livelihood. He's doing it because it's an expression of his personality. It's a hobby, not even a hobby. It's more. This is part of what I like to do. You like to drink. You like to relax. Tell someone you can't relax. That's even more than that. I can't. What do you mean? Take it away. Explain to me. Give me a book to read. I don't care what you're going to tell me. This is what I like to do. You have a professor sit there and explain to him that he's simply wasting his time because it's not going to make money, and today it's a very tough market, and he's going to give him 100 reasons why he shouldn't do it. Is the kid going to stop with the paintbrush? No. He's not going to stop. Why? Because the paintbrush is not dependent on decisions. It's a natural expression of my personality. If I do something based on a decision, so the same way I decided, I can stop. Because I decided, so I can stop. The same way I once wasn't, I can once not be. I don't have to do something that I do, but I can't not be who I am. It's hard. It comes in the expression. This comes in moments where I have to face who I am. Okay, so these are radical moments. So far, what did we discuss? We discussed Mesiras Nefesh moments. And we discussed certain deep ingrained behavior patterns that you see, symptoms. Bris Milah, Kodesh. Yom Kippur, by the way, is Kodesh. That's why Yom Kippur also, you didn't go to shul. Yom Kippur is a mitzvah of Kodesh. Mitzvahs of Kodesh have a certain deeper attraction, if you want to use that word, to Yid. Because it's Kodesh. Doesn't want to. Where does it come from? Because it doesn't want to separate from the Eibishter. That's where it comes from. It's a real thing inside of a Yid. Okay. So, if you want to look on the paper, I discussed over here number 5. I'm going in a different order. I discussed over here number 5, which is the idea of the subconsciousness is awakened by deep identity moments. I actually had a story, I didn't share it. I had a story that I met in the city. So I met with a person, and her daughter was an actress. And she shares with me a story. Another moment, Mesiras Nefesh can happen in many ways. So she says her daughter was picked by a director to be part of a movie. And she goes out, she doesn't have a Jewish name. She has a Russian name. So she goes out to dinner with the head person who's giving out the roles. And he starts spitting out anti-Semitic slurs, like he starts talking about Wall Street, people that are just ruining businesses and these people, and she doesn't understand what he's talking about. She's like, what do you mean? So he turns around in the restaurant to a table of Jews. You know those Jews over there? They're killing, and he starts speaking like a real Russian anti-Semite, like from the olden days. So she got den ganzen vertreselt. She stands up, and she was offered a lot of money for that. She says, you know what? I'm a Jew, and I'm a proud Jew, and I have nothing to do with you. And she just walks out. Now, her mother tells me this was like a lot of money on the table. She's like, but you know what? I'm proud of her. Because she stood up to who she really is. She's not from. She doesn't go to shul every day. She doesn't she's in an industry where they're not really from. Mesiras Nefesh really is an identity of a person. It can come out in many ways. It's not patriotic. It's no state. There's no nothing. It's an identity of a person that has nothing to do with behavior. The minute you take it away, you bash it, it comes out. The Rebbe talks a lot about how Mesiras Nefesh is Mesiras Moment, and you give up a job, it's just as big. Mesiras Nefesh is the same thing as giving up a job. It's in a sense, it's living a Jew is harder than to die a Jew. So the giving up a job is as hard. Money is, and giving tzedakah is like instead of fasting, because money is like blood, because you earn your money. So Mesiras Nefesh applies in many areas. Okay, so we talked about one area. We got it. There's this concept when a person forces you, pushes you against all, so suddenly you decide, you realize who you are. You're shooken up, and your subconsciousness spills out, and you realize, you know what, I'm something, I can't help it, this is who I am. What about our conscious mode? What about our day-to-day activities? How do we feel it in the day-to-day activities a little bit more? So there's something very fascinating. There's a letter of the Rebbe that's very fascinating. And there's two letters. One letter that I actually copied here, so we can see it inside. And there's another letter that I didn't copy. And the Rebbe writes like this. Let me first say about the other letter. Person writes to the Rebbe, he says to him, I don't have Emunah. I don't have Emunah, I don't believe. So the Rebbe writes to him. The Rebbe says, it's not true. You do. You tell me you don't? You should know you do. And the fact that you don't, it's because Hergel Naaaeh tevah. And this is something we have to talk about. We have the ability to numb. Hergel Naaaeh tevah in English would mean my routine could go deeper than routine and turn into second nature. Which means to say in simple English, I'm able to numb, I can't take away my personality. I can't take away what my insides really want. People could, for years, spend time doing something, and then suddenly one day they realize it's not them, and they change careers, and they say the whole career was because of some outside factor. I was trying to do ABC, and that's why I ended up in that career. And now this is where I really enjoy it. It could be years. Because you're able to numb. As humans, we have the ability to numb.
I know this for a fact. There was, I used to work in a school in Queens, and there was a wealthy lawyer, and his son, he went to law school. He went through law school. Law school, as you know, is rigorous, it's demanding, it's long, and it's very costly too. And then after law school, I think he worked on law school for 1 year, and he goes, "This is not for me." And guess what? He became a school teacher.
Really?
And he goes, and this is where I belong, and this is where I am.
There you go.
A school teacher makes a fraction. I mean, another comparison.
Mm-hmm.
High-powered lawyers make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And his father was mad, but he couldn't be who he's not.
There you go.
Didn't work.
There you go. Beautiful example. Beautiful example. It happens all the time.
And so after spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars going to school,
Mm-hmm.
because I know for school,
That's what it cost. Yeah.
And
boom. And he decided it's not him.
and
He
his
finally.
father was pushing and pushing and pushing, but you can't push.
You can't push against. Exactly. Exactly. So you could numb for a little while, but eventually it's going to platz. It's not going to go. So Hergel Naaaeh tevah, what the Rebbe was saying is, a person has the ability to numb. You can push away for a little while the question, the itchingness that you have to go somewhere else, but know that it's not really you. So Hergel Naaaeh tevah implies two things. Number one, you should just know it's a hergel. It's not really you. And number two, don't let it. During the time that it's there, you can numb. You can distance yourself to a certain extent and try to put yourself, but eventually it's going to plot. So that's where you find a story like that. There's a story with the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash went on a special trip. It's brought down in Basel Legani. He went to a hotel, and he went to a young man who was drinking yayin nesech, and he told him, young man, yayin nesech is metame halev amoyach. Yayin nesech is stuffing up your mind and heart. What's it stuffing up? Emunah. Kashrus, we'll soon see another mitzvah, has a specific significance to Emunah. Kashrus is dam uvasik of Sharei. It turns, what you eat is what you are. So when we eat kosher, it allows Emunah to come out. Tarfus stuffs up the feelings of Emunah. They say that the maskilim used to have Yiddish kinderlach drink negavasser, because the tumah of the negavasser will help them forget about the malachim and the inyanim kedoshim. It's going to help. That was their skula of drinking negavasser. Tumah is a real thing. Tumah is a real thing. Yayin nesech is a real thing. Tarfus is a real thing. These are all real things that help squash the feelings of emunah that are deeply ingrained in us. They should not be felt. Then we have another letter of the Rebbe. And I actually have a copy so you can see it. It's a very powerful letter. And the Rebbe writes like this. The Rebbe writes, how is it that the Jewish communists came about? Where did it come from? The Yivisektia, right? In Russia, there was the
Jewish people created.
they were the ones behind. So that was, yeah, bunch of, and there were. Where does it come from? So they were right. There was a bunch of Yidden. So where does it? But also the fight against Torah was really in the beginning of the Yidden. The government themselves were behind. The ones who arrested the Friedrich Rebbe was the Yidden. Were the Yiddish communists that were behind the whole. So where does it come from? The Friedrich Rebbe writes that it came from because their parents were not nizar in Taras Mishpacha. Ad kedei kach. So essentially he says, and the Rebbe continues, and the Rebbe writes, Taras Mishpacha and Kashrus are both things that the Kashrus of the parents becomes the Baal Vasar of the parents, which in turn creates the child, which essentially means in other words, there's a maintenance of Emunah that's given to us. Specifically in these two mitzvahs that have a powerful impact on the Emunah of our children. The Rebbe right away continues, and the Rebbe says, so a person might say, what's going to happen if a person was already Achar Maisa? So what do you do then? So you're telling me that it's a done deal? So the Rebbe writes something very powerful. He says the power of tshuva of the parents is able to impact in retrospect. Which means to say the child who's already born will suddenly have a new Yisrael's tshuva if the parents do tshuva. The parents have a powerful letter, you should read it. I have the copy here. Which tshuva has nothing to do with time. Nothing to do with time. So the parent does tshuva afterwards, which tshuva is an inyan amiti. That change has an impact on the children later. It's
nothing to do with this, but I'm sure I'm not alone because I'm just a regular Jewish mom, so I feel if I have these feelings, maybe I'm in good company. But truly, tshuva is a nice thing, but I never really knew how exactly does one do tshuva. It's like next time. If you could just touch upon that, it would be.
I could give a share on that.
Huh?
The word. So you know what? Let me.
I can give you much more.
Let me use the words that Rebbe uses. So Rebbe writes like this. No, because it's a good question. It's a good question because the word tshuva can play out in many ways. So he said like this. He says, I'll just say it in English.
Wait, you said this? I'm just saying from what I heard from Mrs. Gazen, but many of these parents were from. And the government persuaded these people and they turned in their parents. So it's not because their parents were not from or they were very from, many of these Russians that
Being from and being mitzvah in a
there's doing the right thing and there's being the right thing. The point is not.
They indoctrinated them in school when they were little.
The Friedrich Rebbe is not blaming. The Friedrich Rebbe is simply highlighting the importance of the mitzvah. It's not a blame game. It's highlighting what a mitzvah can do. In other words, like this.
So it's what
If you have the paper, if you already asked, I'll show it to you inside, so we have a clear feeling of what this is. So it's on page Kuf Chav Tes, tshuva on the paragraph tshuva. Kuf Chaf Tes. You see it's a double-sided paper.
Yeah.
So there's a paragraph, a headline tshuva.
Yeah.
I'll read, it's 2 paragraphs. So the Rebbe writes like this. On this we say that tshuva is a balabayis ala avar. Tshuva is in control of the past. But, tzorich gam kabbalah tevah lahab. A person has to have also a genuine new acceptance of behavior pattern for the future. That from now on, the chinuch that he will be giving will be the right chinuch. But that's only in order to demonstrate that he really genuinely changed his behavior pattern from the past. Charata amitis ala avar. And when this genuine feeling happens, then milmaila, the Eibishter, puts into the child, ben or bas, their own feeling of regret that they'll have and their feeling of connection to who they are, which is hirur tshuva. They're going to have a new connection, a new feeling, a new awakening within them that's going to be similar to the awakening a person has when you put them against the wall and say, who are you? What that kind of awakening is the feeling of tshuva that comes into a person when they say, hey, I don't belong here. I belong somewhere else. I don't, those moments that we suddenly say, I don't belong. Suddenly it took him a few years to say he doesn't belong in law school and become a teacher. That moment, Melmaila, they give this child that moment of a belonging feeling, and then that awakens within the child a connection to his inner neshama, essentially swiping away the impurity that the parents gave that child. And he continues until the adasher, regardless of the fact of how that child was educated, he will still now conduct a proper life because of this hirur tshuva that Hashem gave him. But the Rebbe continues in the second paragraph. When is this talking about? When it's genuine. So what's genuine? Genuine means to say it spills over into action. A person can't be genuine if they don't actually practice their genuine feeling in the sense of practice, maise, action. So there has to be a penetration of that genuine regret into a new lifestyle. Maise b'poil. Hainu, genuine means amiti, yeah. Davar amiti. Hainu, so he explains, what does it mean, maise b'poil? Sharoyim be'ez, interesting examples. Be'ez moistis chinuch u'toymich, where a person gives their money, you can see who they are. So who are the kinds of people you support? Who are the kinds of people you feel connected to, if you want to use that word? In other words, there are certain signs that help us see where we are. Why does a person give to a son? They feel it's their baby. Oh, that's where you are. That's where you feel connected to. So that's one area where you can perhaps see how there's a spillover or change in the sense of your affinity, your belonging. I belong to the synagogue. I belong to the shul. I belong to this organization. We use the word belonging over there. So obviously giving and connecting yourself to certain places shows what kinds of lifestyles you are internally feel belong to. So changing, what kind of moises chinuch, what kind of projects, you want to put in simple English, what kind of projects do you feel that you want to support? What kind of things do you feel that's your baby? That's where you can see where you are. If I'm suddenly going to be very much into olam, what do they say? What's the word they say? The reform is very tikkun olam. I just want to make a nice world. Nothing to do with Torah mitzvahs. So I'm just a nice person. Then that's not hirur tshuva if I want to just be a nice person. Hirur tshuva has to be that it's spilling out into, I want to see more mitzvahs in people. I become happy when I see another mitzvah. I want it, so I see my want. I see my desire. I see what my want really is by where I want to, what do I want to be part of? What kind of community, what kind of clubs, what kind of get-togethers do I want to spend time with? These are all ways how a person sees who they are. So it's not just toimich in a sense of money, it's toimich in a sense of commitment, dedication, belonging. That's what really it is. What else does he say? So the Rebbe continues on. If it's moistis shemechanchem derech hatoiv, or it's moistis that are just moistis. So these are the kinds of ways that we can see where a person belongs. Then the Rebbe continues in the last paragraph. V'inyan miyuchad bazeh b'negea la'em. This is very important for the mother. Right afterwards. The last line. Amnam b'negea la'oichel kosher, b'negea eating kosher, both parents have to be makpid. And v'inyan zeh, negea gam asha imo eicheles v'gam asha abo eichel. What the parents eat, Sharei mehem noitzar aloyim v'oidem. This is how the child is created. So whatever the parents eat in the sense of kashrus, that's negea for both. But the Torah says the chinuch of a child starts even before they're born. And this is b'yuchad negea le'imoy, because even before 9 months, whatever she eats is what becomes, and that's why the zhirus we have during that time has a pu'ula on the child, etc., etc., etc. So this has a pu'ula, has an effect. The zehirus, the extra carefulness that a person has in this area of kashrus, and obviously in Taras Mishpacha, both of these areas are specifically the areas of kedusha. This is kashrus and kedusha. We use the word kaddish on Taras Mishpacha. We use the word kedusha on kashrus. So these are two mitzvahs. These are two mitzvahs that have a special significance. When people say, I'm going to make another zehirus in kashrus, I'm going to take a chumrah in kashrus. A chumrah in kashrus essentially means careful. It's another protection over Emunah, if you wish. Kashrus is food. What's food? What we eat. A zehirus in kashrus helps us become more sensitive. Just like begashmi, certain foods make you sensitive, certain foods, sensitive stomach, certain foods have, person's immune to anything, can eat anything. But usually foods have, beruchlis, kashrus is, the Rebbe would say sometimes, benegea, ailments, begashmians, he would refer to kashrus. And kashrus has the inyan of mithamtim. It stuffs up, but it goes both ways. It stuffs up, but it also can make you more sensitive. If a person has a zehirus in kashrus, it creates a sensitivity the person could develop. So these are two mitzvahs that are general areas where the consciousness can change. Sensitivity can be developed. Begashmis. And then there's a general idea of mitzvahs. If you go over to a creative kid, and you ask a creative kid, so tell me, how did you become an artist? This has to do with any talent. You know what the answer is? I took a brush and I painted. And then I painted again. Then I painted again. If they have a talent, okay, obviously you have to teach them, but really they say practice makes, you can't become, thinking about it is not going to make you better. You have to actually do it. And the more you do it, the better you become at it. If you could be doing something many years and be doing it. If you have if you don't know how to paint, then you can do it 100 years and still not know how to paint. But if you have the actual doing it, and that's what we say in Tanya, that's what we say in Gemara, mitzvah gereres mitzvah. One mitzvah, essentially a mitzvah is a sensitivity that we're adding to the neshama, which in turn breeds another sensitivity, because it's like a person who's painting, who uses the paintbrush, and they're like, yeah, I'm getting the feel of it. This is like my kind of thing. A mitzvah causes another mitzvah to come. It's not just a salesmanship kind of thing. What it is a mitzvah, because a mitzvah is who we are, because our identity is really supposed to and is inclined to gravitate towards a mitzvah, what happens is I'm in an atmosphere that there's many reasons why I cannot appreciate the mitzvah, etc., etc. The actual doing the mitzvah makes me in touch with who I am. So you give me the paintbrush, and that's when the Rebbe says in Nas, the Rebbe has a sicha, and that sicha that I copy, the Rebbe says like this. You know what Nasa v'nishma means? Nasa v'nishma doesn't mean just do it because I don't care, just do it. I don't care what you feel. Nasa v'nishma means do it because you're going to feel it. It's your kind of thing. You're going to feel it. It's like taking, I gave the example, when you take the creative kid out of the math classroom, a therapist comes into the math classroom and takes the kid out. The kid he's kicking. He doesn't want to go out. Do me a favor. Listen to me. I'm trying to help you. The Rebbe gives example that the Torah is like a doctor. It's like a doctor. It's not a king in the sense of a dictator. It's a doctor. A doctor is someone who simply wants your own good. So there's a few points over here. Let's just summarize what we talked about, and let's go to the main point. Number one, we talked about how the subconsciousness that we have within us comes out in Mesiras Nefesh, in major moments of Mesiras Nefesh. Fine. Number 2, we talked about two mitzvahs specifically that have a big impact on our neshama. Kashrus and Taras Mishpacha. And number 3, we talked about how all mitzvahs are really supposed to be similar to Taras Mishpacha and Kashrus. Mitzvah has a powerful impact. It simply draws us in. A person who does a mitzvah, the mitzvah itself, one day wakes up and suddenly wants to go to shir. Where does it suddenly come from? Suddenly a person wakes up and they say, where does it come from? And suddenly a person can wake up the other way around and say, I don't want something. Where do these sudden things come from? These are after effects, just like a person who had a bad lifestyle and ate a lot of junk. So when they eat good, for a while they develop a new taste. And suddenly they cannot want to eat foods that they liked in the past. Why? It took a while for you to get to know this new taste, and the new taste now is talking to you. Now you're in touch with this new taste, and really that new taste is your natural, the nature of a person should be to be healthy. LMI, you were not in touch with the vitamins, you weren't in touch with...
It's not that, somebody's eating a very sugary and sweet. You try to take an apple, it's not sweet. You don't have to eat anything sweet for a week. You take an apple, it's delicious, you feel the sweetness. It tastes good.
And then also the nutrients, what happens is a person, the gashabis, needs certain nutrients, but because I'm eating a cake and whatever a whole day, so I lose my touch to nutrients. So what do I eat? I just want another something sweet. I just want to fill myself up. But then when someone does help me realize, you see, this is what makes you feel this. This is what makes you feel this, because there's real nutrients that I need. When I crave something, I need something. It's not just I just want to just fill it up with cake. There's something. So when I get in touch with what I need, suddenly, now it makes sense. But in the beginning, it was very hard. Nasa v'nishma is like, it's hard to get used to the right nutrients. The example given for mitzvahs is nutrients. That's the example given. Tayag mitzvahs is tayag nutrients that we have, that are meant for tayag evorim. That's how the tayag works. It's not just a mismatch that came out of nowhere. There's a significance to the tayag conundrum. So that's number 1. That's number 1. Hergel, let's go through the pointers so we see what we do have and what we don't have. I want to go into the last point, which is the Rebbe point. So we start off with the moon is a subconscious. Why don't we feel it? I brought out that Hergel Naaaeh tevah. The Rebbe writes in the letter that you do have it. We brought an example in the math classroom that it's aggravating the child's mindset. That's like the Hergel Naaaeh tevah. When you're in a different atmosphere, it's aggravating your really natural mindset is now becoming clouded. So you don't really feel yourself. So it's not just a routine, it can influence my mind. And when it influences my mind, I become lost. There's an example I didn't say. There's an example of a prince who once thought he was a dog. And the king didn't know what to do. The prince goes under the table and he starts eating schmutz. He starts eating the beindalach of a chicken, and he starts making noises. And so, Tumul, what are you going to do with this meshugana? So finally, there's one chacham in the palace. He went down under the table and he says, "I'm also a dog." Oh, it's a dog. Dogs listen to dogs. As they get this dog, they don't listen to humans. He says, "Oh, I listen to you." And they became chaverim and they're talking. Finally, he told them one day, there's a new invention by the dogs. We started eating by the table. They don't eat under the. We sit by a chair. Really? Okay. It's zugehört. He sat down. We eat with a fork. Dogs started eating chicken. Not only the beinlach, they also started eating the chicken. So bislach, he got him used to his real self. And he allowed him, once he penetrated into his mind of the dog, and he was able to talk to the dog mindset and convince him, he was able to strip away the layers of clouds that slowly develop there and help him reach who he really is. But you have to reach that schmutz. You have to go into a person's mind. Otherwise, a person can think he's whatever. A person has many drukim in the mind, but it's all in the mind. The idea is what we need after Emunah. Because the mind that we have, mind is a very powerful thing. Mind can think a lot of things. So really what we have to, and that's a whole different discussion. What is the mind? And that's really the power of change. The power of change is in the mind, not in Emunah. Emunah is who you are. But to be who you are, we're going to eventually have to have a discussion of the mindset that we're created with. We're created the mindset of nature, not created the mindset of a Eibishter. We're created with a contradiction. We don't believe, you expect nature, you don't expect a miracle. That means to say, really, we're wired not to think like Aviv? How do you wire yourself differently? That's a discussion for the mind. At the end of the day, the example of the prince who thought he was a dog is really an example for every single yid. And there's a change. Sure there is.
Could we expect another?
Sure.
Can I ask?
No. He spoke very nicely at the kindness. He spoke very nicely. Yeah, he spoke very nicely. And what he spoke was the idea of das. That's what he spoke. What's his name? Chaim. Spoke very nicely. What he spoke is the inyan of das. But he said it in other words. Really what he spoke is the idea of das. A person with his mind, begashmis, you see this in the world too. The mind has a powerful impact on a person. We can say the word impossible and the word possible, and really it's a perception. We can say the word impossible and really it's just a perception. It's not true. Who said? So the mind is a powerful thing, and that's really the role of das. The role of das is to allow us, the yid has the ability to look at the world differently than a goy. There's something that's a different discussion. Today we're just discussing the emunah and how the emunah spills out, and the different things that we have that show us that we're taka different. But the first nekudah is Hergel Naaaeh tevah. I call the self-hating Jew is like the prince under the dog. The prince who thought he was a dog is like a self-hating Jew. You have these Jews that are spouting anti-Semitism. They're just like the prince who thought he was a dog. It's the same thing. Unfortunately, it exists pretty. It's not something rare. Next thing. So how do we awaken the feeling of Emunah? That's what we talk about. You take a paintbrush. Mitzvah geredes mitzvah. The Rambam says schar mitzvah mitzvah. You know what that means? That means the schar of the mitzvah. You get in touch with yourself. There's nothing better with getting in touch with yourself. It's a gratification of being who you are. Like you said, being a teacher was more gratifying for this teenager, for this young man than the great paycheck that he's going to get in the law firm. Because being who you are is genuine, is you. Being something else, as much as it has nice benefits, but you don't feel like you belong.
Qualification and a training.
Yeah, it's not you, so it doesn't work.
I just want to go back to one thing for physics, for what I'm and in general. My father used to say, even death is an aggravating. So even though we're used to a certain reality, but we all know that in our lives, I'm sure most of us have come across a certain situation where I don't believe it. John Parkinson, I don't believe it. Let me find exact style and shoe outfit that I need right now. Or let me get with it. Things that are not within the nature, laws of nature, has occurred to us when we really ask for it. The Baruch Atah Hashem Shomei Tefillah. So I really think that even though we're bound to nature and we don't expect miracles, but I think Hashem does miracles on a regular basis if we open our eyes, and we could expect.
Not only that, but it's even more than that. We can actually I won't use the word expect, but we can actually start seeing things differently. Yeah, the word is expect. When you change the way you look at things, so the things you look at can change or do change. When you change the way you look at something, the things you look at change. Suddenly you see something differently. It happens all the time. So really, it's not a yid can look at tevah and that's how they lived in Rosh. That's how we live through Nasiyanos. That's how a person lives through anything. But we're gonna get. It's a real thing. We're gonna get to that. It's not just a. The Kashmiris people use it. Mind over matter is a real thing.
Placebo.
People in the elite units. What?
The placebo effect in medicine.
They use it. Okay. So,
Yeah.
But in the elite units, they say, what's the qualification for someone to go into Sayarat Ramatkal or to go into what they call the Navy SEALs? It's not about how strong you are. It's about how determined you are. How determined. How your mind. If you come in saying, I will do it, then you're a Navy SEAL. If you come in saying, I'll see, you're not going to come in. You're gonna come in. So really, it's the mind. Navy SEAL, they're giving mission that's impossible. And how do they do it? Because it's the mind. The mind is very powerful. So really, the mind of a yid is able to change a consciousness and look at things differently.
Then comes the training. They train.
And then they train. The training is all about, but you know what their training is? They put them in water for 10 hours. They put them in mud for 6 hours. They're going to do everything to show them You thought you can't do that? 100 miles an hour with your backpack with 70 pounds. Everything that until now was impossible, I did it. So now they're trained to do what? Nothing is impossible. The whole training is for one nekudah. Never tell me impossible. You can do it. Just do it.
But they also pick people who would feel would be qualified, just not.
So
Yeah.
not everybody can be a tzaddik. There's Beinonim and there's Rishonim.
Now this is not tzaddik.
No, but not everybody is built to be able to go through all the trainings of the SEALs. Some people just don't have the netzach that you need, the
We're all
adrenaline
trained
that
on
you
the
need.
job called life.
Everybody's determined in something. You know, I found something funny. You ever saw the hot dog race? You ever saw these guys eating 70 hot dogs? Can you eat 70 hot dogs? I can't. But then someone else is determined to stay up a whole night and draw a painting. Someone else is determined to drive across America. Someone else is determined to go on a marathon for 100 and I don't know how many miles. And someone else is going to be determined to jump off from a plane. Everybody's determined. Ratzin is something that every human has. The question is where you have your determination. Every single person is a Navy SEAL somewhere. The question is where. Every single human is determined. Otherwise, every single human has determination, has Ratzin. The question is where you apply it. That's a different question. But to say a human doesn't have determination, humans are full of determination. We're very determined. The question is where. Someone is determined to eat a lot of cake. So he eats a lot of cake. They eat like 70, 80 hot dogs. Can you imagine? Eat 70, 80 hot dogs, then he throws it all up. But that's what he was determined to do. I don't know what he does.
You have to finish first before you throw it.
But the point is, determination is shaykh by everybody. Let me just finish the paper. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, how do we maintain and reverse the negative impact in Emunah? So we brought out a few points. We brought out the sicha about the communists, which is the power of tshuva, and at the same time the power of the 2 mitzvahs, kashrus and taras mishpacha, chol vakos and tamei lev hamoyach. Again, it's the idea of kashrus. The Rebbe in other places also writes about tilim. Tilim is like what you mentioned, how a yid has the power to connect to something l'maylam derech tevah. When a yid sits down with a tehillim, the Rebbe would sometimes say, that's a chavek mit a tehillim, und vein, und beto his meibishtin, and the Rebbe would write, and perfect meibishtin for a bracha. You have the power. Don't be discouraged from things that sit down, but do it with, like he says, genuine. Tehillim is shoiver, it breaks a lot of mesachim amavdilim. It breaks those barriers.
To something that seems impossible.
Tehillim breaks.
So that is me'al derech
Correct. These are all things l'mayla. These are all. In other words, really, what Tehillim does, it connects the yid to his juk inside, to his bug inside, to his eibishter that's inside of him. And when you're in touch with your eibishter, nothing. That's what davening is. That's what Tehillim. That's what these things are. They're essentially shortcuts that pierce through all the layers that are between us and us, between my behavior and between who I am internally and really am. But again, this is all Emunah. This is not, at the end of the day, we live in a world that we have a lot of clouds. And that has to be dealt with. Chassidus, at the end of the day, deals with that separately in the sense of talking to that mind, in the sense of training that mind that impossible is possible. Here I'm just laying out the facts. Where this plays out in the conscious mind. But at the end of the day, a person lives with the mind. A person has to deal. If you think you're a dog, then you gotta sit down with someone and figure out that you're not a dog. You're talking something else. We think we're dogs sometimes. We think we're bound by tevah. But we have to sit down. But it's a discussion. It's not. You can't just tell. What do you mean? There's a lot to discuss and to peel away for a person to see something differently, or even begin to see something. That's a different discussion.
Can I tell you a little quick?
Yeah, sure.
So I got somebody sent this on my Facebook. So this guy in Israel was going through a checkpoint going into a building, and the officer said, "You have a weapon on you," because now most Israelis are carrying weapons. He said, "No." He goes in his pocket. He says, "All I have." You saw that? No, I just have this, and it was a Tehillim. He goes, "That's like a weapon. That's the strongest weapon you can have."
Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
So finding your essence, excuse me. Sometimes you have to search for it, and sometimes it's pushed on you.
Correct.
But it's there. And
Correct.
I know personally I've experienced it, and the thing that you were saying about, the Navy SEALs. My brother was 19 when he started medical school. The very first day was an autopsy. Half the kids quit. But those who wanted to
Who persisted
be doctors,
continued.
My
Right.
brother, when he was a baby, used to cut up toys and pretend he was doing surgery on them.
Wow.
And he's a world-class liver surgeon now.
So these are all examples of the
But
persistence.
That was
Right.
what he was.
Just want to finish before I finish. I want to finish with the number at least number 6. There's a story of the Rebbe, very powerful, and this is where a Rebbe goes in. A famous story. Dov Ber Halper from Eretz Yisrael writes it in the book that he writes on different stories of the Rebbe. He met a person. I'll say it quickly because we're going late. Dov Ber Halper writes in the Sipurim of the Rebbe that he writes from Kfar Chabad. I forgot what it's called.
He has a book.
Yeah, he wrote a book from Kfar Chabad. He's the Eirich from Kfar Chabad. So he compiled a bunch of different stories.
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew, yeah. So one of the stories he writes, he was on a plane, he was sitting next to a Polish Yid, and the Polish Yid tells him, I'm not a Lubavitcher, but I'm a chassid of the Rebbe. So he says, what do you mean? He says, after World War II, he came into the Frierdiker Rebbe. He comes into the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe says, go visit the Ramash, the Rebbe. So he visits the Rebbe, and the Rebbe tells him an eitzah, when you go to Brazil and open a school. So he went to Brazil and he opened a school. And years later, dozens of years later, decades later, a student comes in and tells him, my parents want to talk with you. So he meets with the parents, and the parents tell him, our daughter is going out with a guy, can you help us? So he goes and he talks to the daughter, and it's a garnish geholfen. Nothing moved. So he reminded himself then that there's a Rebbe that he read in years ago. So he called him Askidus. He calls him Askidus, and Chadikov was on the line. And Chadikov tells him, tell the girl that there is a person in New York who can't sleep because of her actions. So he says, who's that person? So he hears a voice, Mendel Schneerson. The Rebbe was on the line, and the Rebbe interjected and said. And so he's thinking to himself, this is the parents can't sleep at night, this doesn't help. And now a guy from New York, what's this going to help? So the phone rings, Chadikov calls him. Chadikov tells him, the Rebbe asked me to give over, or mit mir übergegeben, I was told to tell you that a shliach should do his shlichus, and that she knows this person. Tell her that she knows him. So he goes to the girl's house, and he tells her, I have to meet with you. She tells him, let go of me, enough. He goes to her house, and he just goes in, and he tells her that there's a person in New York who can't sleep because of you. She's like, that's what you came to do, bring me a cup, get out of here. He says, no, you know him. She says, I know him? Show me a picture. She shows him a picture. She turns white, and she says, yeah, he's been coming to me a few times in my cholim, and telling me to let go, and shook her up, and she let go. Why am I bringing down the story? I want to ask a question. This is an important question we have to ask when we hear these stories. What happened to this girl? Love is a real thing. She had a real connection to this person. If you're going to spook her out of something, in a few days, she's going to come back to her previous state, and she'll go back to the shekets. So what do you do over here? You're spooking her out. You can't spook someone out of a regesh, out of a feeling. What happened? How did she suddenly let go? Nothing in the world helped. Did Rebbe said something that convinced her? How do you make a change? Elamai, it was a moment. What did the Rebbe do? It's a Rebbe thing. What happened? A Rebbe is able to awaken Emunah. A Rebbe is able to awaken. What's a dream? What did that? A Rebbe was able. So at a moment she felt, sometimes people can enjoy a certain company, and then they say, you know what, it's not my kind of thing. It's really not my kind of person. We can do the begashmis. You can have a certain friend, you enjoy it, and then you say, it's not my kind of person. The regesh that she had was a deeper ave. The regesh to break an ave is a deeper ave. The regesh, the feeling that a person has to break a love to a non-Jewish man that she wanted to marry can only come from a deeper feeling that she felt that although I feel what I feel, but I don't belong. Essentially, she pierced through her. That's what happens at these moments of Emunah. These moments are moments where they say, I enjoyed. I had good tea with him. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. I can't see myself there anymore. Something happened in her, something kitzeled in her, that she's now, what the words that she's going to say is, I can't see myself there anymore. That's Emunah. Emunah means the belonging feeling surfaced. Okay, a Rebbe has a koyach many times when a person has a problem. What's trying to go to a Rebbe? A Rebbe has a koyach to mu'ayr the Emunah in a Yid. a Yid, and that's really what the Polish Yidden used to always do. Polish Yidden used to say, Tzaddik b'menosa yichel, tika yichel yechayim. That a tzaddik is going to be able to be my recharger for my Emunah. And whenever my consciousness is cloudy and I feel like I'm a dog, I go back to the recharger, and boom, he's able to, and that's what a tzaddik does. Chassidus taught us that we should also deal with the cloud. But a tzaddik has a power to recharge. That's what happened in that story. Sometimes we don't think about these stories. What happens? How does a person let go of a regesh so strong? Such a strong feeling. How do you let go of it? The answer is only a stronger feeling. You can't let go of a feeling. You can feel that feeling is not you. And that's what happens at these moments, what a tzaddik does. And you have many stories like that. The famous story with the Rebbe Levitzchik comes to the guy who used to have a palace, and he used to be a dog, and he used to attack everybody. And he was a Soini Yisrael. He was a person. He used to be a Jew. I mean, he was a Jew. He was born a Jew. And then he would have decrees against it. And then Rebbe Levitzchik came and wanted to daven in his house. And he came out with a dog. And by mistake, he killed his own dog. And then he was so tzufloigen that he allowed Rebbe Levitzchik to daven in his house. As Rebbe Levitzchik was davening, the story is told in Atomim, suddenly the Yid starts crying. And suddenly he comes into the davening. What happens? A tzaddik, this is the power of a tzaddik, is he strips away the consciousness of a person and allows them to come back in touch with who they are. So a Yid vein tois to a tzaddik, just like a Yid can cry with davening, that's the power of a tzaddik. When a Yid connects to a tzaddik and cries out to a tzaddik, the tzaddik helps him recharge. That's a recharger. But again, it's not connecting to something you're not. It's connecting to something you always had within you. Good. There's one more story of the Rebbe Rashab. We're running out of time. A chassid comes into the Rebbe Rashab and he cries into the Rebbe Rashab. He says, Rebbe, ich hab nicht keine Emunah. The Rebbe says, no, big deal. He says, Rebbe, ich bin doch a Yid. Rebbe, I'm a Jew. How can you tell me big deal? So the Rebbe says, Evazeh is good. If it bothers you, that's a good thing. If it bothers you that you don't want to leave here, that's good, very good. So you're on a good track. You're good. Sometimes the fact that it bothers us, that in itself is a symptom that something is kitzeling. That's another symptom that we have something that, although we claim we don't. And I'll finish. I'll finish with the last point that I bring out is that the experience. In 2 words, you go out on the street, you see billboards. Companies pay billions of dollars for billboards. Why do they pay billions of dollars for billboards? You know what's in the billboard? A person holding Coke smiling. Why do they do that?
Conditioning.
Because they're programming your subconsciousness. What they're doing is in the back of your mind, they're telling you, you know what happy is? Coke. So next time you're sad, buy Coke. So they're now influencing your conscious decisions by going to your subconsciousness. They don't have to tell you buy Coke. They don't even have to write the words buy Coke. They just say smiling with a person that's very famous and Coke. So now every time I think I'm sad, oh, I want to smile. Oh, I want to be happy. So I buy Coke. So they're programming your subconsciousness. Emunah is sometimes compared to the Iya, which is something you see. Seeing goes into the subconsciousness of a person and impacts our conscious decisions that we don't even realize. A person goes in the store and has an impulsive buy. Where does it come from? Because they remember they saw that and was happy. So they want to be happy. So Emunah has a conscious effect on our day-to-day decisions similar to that image that you saw. The salesman in the store relies on the images that are on the billboards. He knows that when you come into the store, you're already bought. The question is what you're going to buy. Once you came into that store and you already got that call and you already have in the back of your subconsciousness, this is a good store. So now he's going to explain to you, it's not only good for Monday, it's good for Shabbos, and it's good for teens, and it's good for older kids.
You're not buying the item, you're buying the feeling.
You're buying the feeling. The feeling is Emunah. Emunah is a feeling that it's put into the subconsciousness. Now when you go and you buy...
It's also with makeup or perfume or these things. They want the woman, they're not buying that makeup or that their mind.
The feeling that's going to...
Last.
Yeah, that's right. They say in sales, it's about giving a feeling. And that's what really is the trick of marketing. That's the chachma of marketing. Chachma of marketing is to give you a certain feeling for a certain store. And then when you come in there, the person in the store is going to help you expand that feeling. You thought it's only going to be for clothes from 10 to 12. And now I'm going to show you it's also for teenagers. Now I'm going to show you the same feeling. It's also going to be for men. It's also going to be for Shabbos. It's also going to be for the weekdays. They're telling you the feeling that you already like. They're just helping you see it in other places too. So now you're already bought. And now you just have to have someone to show you what to buy. But you're bought. You're already bought from their images that they already put. Anyway, the kitzer, we'll finish with that. The idea of Emunah, just to summarize, Emunah is the subconsciousness of a person. It spills over to the consciousness. It spills over in moments of decision making. It spills over in decisions we make that we don't even realize sometimes. It's which decisions can it spill over that we don't realize? It could spill over in a person could be drawn sometimes to do a mitzvah, and they didn't really make a decision what to do it, but they ended up doing it. Sometimes you give an example when a person does a mitzvah by mistake. So if you lose money by mistake, you're not happy. No matter when you lose money, if you made a wrong business deal, you're never going to be happy about it. But sometimes it's a bashar, it's a good thing. I ended up doing that. It was a mitzvah. It's fine. I'm happy with it. Why are you happy with it? Although you didn't make a decision to do it, it's showing that this is the kind of thing. It's a kind of. I wasn't planning to go there and do it, but it came my way and I did it. I'm very happy that I did that mitzvah. I'm very happy that I ended up doing that time with that kind of thing. Where else does it come out in a behavior pattern that a person can do a mitzvah that they don't anticipate? It comes out in other places. Where else does it come out? I can't think of a.
Riding in the subway. In the subway, and something happens to somebody else, or somebody needs something else, and you have an opportunity to do something that you didn't plan or didn't even think that you were going to do.
So a mitzvah that came your way. Another example on the subway. Suddenly a mitzvah comes your way. Suddenly a person feels. You know an example that I found sometimes in Eretz Yisrael. They give tramps. In America, they don't give such. There's no such a culture thing of a tramp is a ride, hitch a ride. But it's like it's not just a culture. It's like I'm happy to give you a ride. It's a culture thing in Eretz Yisrael. Oh, you're waiting. Stop by. And here I can do it on the highway. I can wait there for a whole day, and no one's going to stop their car for me. Not because of security, because of I don't care for you. I'm not going to stop my day and help you. And over there, there's a feeling that a yid has.
That wasn't
A sense
true
of
in the 60s.
something else. What?
It wasn't so true in the 60s. A lot of people, their mode of transportation was hitchhiking.
So I'll give you a different example
But
today.
it is because of security now, because then weird things happen and people stop.
So let me give you a different example today. When a terrorist attack happens in
Over here in
California,
Kingston, they stand and then they get rights to the OL.
that's between Yidden. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the oil,
Between
yeah.
Yidden.
Yeah.
But let me give you a different example.
There was a guy who put a keep on his head.
It's security. Today it's
No,
security.
No, it was a catskill, and his car broke down.
And then someone stopped to help him.
No, and he put a keep on his head, and he goes, "Are you sure?" He goes, "No, but I just wanted something. I knew that if I had a keep on my head, somebody's gonna."
Very
stop
good.
me."
Very good. Wow, very good. Very good.
Because it's a service. I miss a service. Going around.
Very good. Yeah.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's stopped, and then it stopped. Nobody gives rides to anybody.
No, he should have someone stopped to help out his car.
Yes, this happens.
Yeah. And he had it. It was part of the spare tire. So you have a yarmulke.
No. He went to his employer's bar mitzvah, son's bar mitzvah, and he got it as part of the.
But another example is when you have a terrorist attack in Eretz Yisrael. So someone here feels pain. When you have a terrorist attack in the church of Chavez over there in California, someone over there was shooting someone. Okay, it doesn't hurt the same way. And you know what? Not every American feels that pain for another American like you feel for a Yid. So there's something else. I live here, they live there. An Arab. Where do you find that kind of affinity? That kind of suddenly spontaneous, a natural. Everybody, no matter how much where does it come from? So there are certain feelings that we have that are different. That just we do stand apart. If you look at a nation per nation, you look at Yidden as a whole. There are a lot of odd things that stand out. It's all sehr gut and schön. At the end of the day, we live a life. At the end of the day, this is Emunah. Emunah is really inspirational. Inspirational doesn't change. Inspirational means, okay, it helps me know that I'm different. It helps me, it inspires me. But then there's Yediyah, which is the next Nakuda, which helps a person change. We'll finish with that.